it's perfect for the video. But then they always do that side look. They're trying to see if they're on screen.
All right, welcome back to another episode of Game Day Glare. I'm Lance. I'm with E, and this is a podcast for sports videographers. How's everything going, E?
Good. Been traveling a bit lately, so my life is a bit. My schedule has been a bit all over the place. I actually have to go back to my routine, but I think I'll keep that. We're recording on a Friday today, so I think I'll keep that for Monday. Recording. Go. Oh, I was gonna say recording is part of our routine, but we usually do it on Thursday. So yeah, it's all.
I'm just happy with your busy schedule. You still made time for me. We still fit in the show. So that's all that matters. You know, our main goal is to stay consistent. So that's what we've been doing. Exactly. So I know we talked off camera about why you were traveling and all that, but unfortunately, guys, you'll have to wait to YouTube to see why. Or can you give us a little bit of a sneak peek or anything?
Well, I'll say that. I was definitely on the East Coast, probably in the state of New York, and probably was around a professional sports team over there. What came out of it, what will come out of it, is still unknown, even to myself. So we'll all know together soon enough.
Sometimes you go to these shoots or you travel and you have something in mind and it doesn't always turn out the way you want, and you have to wait. Sometimes, I don't know if it's approvals or if it's till you check the footage or until time to edit it.
All of the above. Yeah.
Completely understand. So today's topic, we were chit-chatting, and actually one of our listeners wrote in and he got his first gig, first contract, and it kind of made me think like, hey, everybody has a first day. So that's what we're going to talk about is you got the gig. Now what? Because we're working so hard just to get a yes. But if you don't have experience or you haven't really been signed to a contract or get a full-time in with a team to start producing content, well, once they say yes, what's the game plan and what do you actually do?
Well, let me ask you this. What was your first gig? And don't tell us that expo story again. I want to know, was the first time that you actually, like, as a freelance sort of videographer, what was the first time you had to show up to like an event and capture everything and potentially do an edit afterwards? I don't know.
So it's hard. When I was younger, before the expos, I used to do like these little football highlights and that for like the community here in GDG. So I used to do those like little recap videos and that. But when I think about like, how about I go to my company? Okay. Mm-hmm. So I was full-time for 20 years and then COVID hit, and then I had to pivot. And one of the first contracts that I got on my own was actually, I mentioned this before, was editing a Scooby-Doo video. So that was kind of cool.
Yikes.
And it was completely different because it was a documentary, and I did do some documentary work, but nothing to that capacity, like an hour and 45-minute film. That was challenging because I was so used to doing sports stories, doing underdog stories, doing comebacks, highlights, all that. And then it was like, hey, this is a play about Scooby-Doo. It's his 50th birthday. Now I have to tell that story. So it was kind of a cool story because it was a very technical show with like these digital productions that look like comic books. And then they had the costumes and all that. And so I had actors, I had directors, I had costume designers, all that. And I didn't film. I only filmed like 3 or 4 interviews because I came on the project late. So I was given a lot of terabytes of footage. And it was like, during COVID, where stuff is still in lockdown, here's this hard drive, go through it and make a movie. No direction, no nothing. So what I did is I kind of wrote up a proposal of how I thought it was going to work, like how I saw the story unfolding, passed that off, got it back, and then started building that movie through that. So that was really, really challenging. It's completely different than the world of sports, and it's not a game day experience, but it was a more recent experience that put me in, out of my comfort zone and made me kind of think on my feet and get out there. So it's, yeah. What about you?
Well, I can't remember what my first sports, like outside of just working for the Canadians, like what my first sports probably was like coming to Australia, I guess would be my first memory anyway of like showing up to a game day for the first time and having to figure out everything. But back then, sports videography was so not a thing that there wasn't that pressure to say like, oh my God, look at all these things that are usually produced out of game day, and now I'm this young kid coming in and I have to do the same caliber of work. Like there was none of that. It was just showing up. It was soccer, which I'd never really filmed before, but back then there was still because it was one of these things, and we kind of had that conversation before we started shooting about filming rights and all that sort of stuff. And back then it was like the big thing was that broadcaster, and it's still like that today, like the broadcaster has like exclusive rights to the footage to a certain extent. But back then it was such a normal thing that like, so it was like no one can film the game other than the broadcaster. So I was just there basically to film the crowd, like really just filming everything going on around the stadium before the game, and then the crowd going in and the crowd sort of celebrating when something happens and things like that. So in a way it was sort of an easy way to get in because you didn't have that pressure to capture goals and great moments in the game. But the footage, then I would edit like a game recap that was a mix of my footage and the game footage, which back then was given to me by the trucks at the game, which is like a compressed DVD, like just super low quality. So it didn't take too long that I started filming, sneaking. Because what I realized is that none of the people who work for the broadcaster at the game, they're cameramen, they're like, they don't care. Like, so it's not like they're going to police who's filming and who's not. So I would just do my own thing, and eventually was able to put in some of my shots in the videos, and people realized that it actually looks much better. And that was the start of doing like proper game recaps like we see them today, like in Australia. Like no one was doing that back then, and it was just like, oh yeah, these look so cool. And then they started doing more and more, and other people started doing it. And yeah, all that to say that was my first experience, and ultimately it was kind of one of those things where no one was doing it because they were told you can't do it. It was sort of everybody's sort of sticking to that same recipe of like, that's how it's always been done, so that's how we do it. And all it took was for someone to try, and most importantly for a team to trust me that it was like the right thing to do and a good idea, and then to be on board with posting it, because it wasn't posted on my socials, it was posted on theirs. So yeah, from there, I think like sports videography in Australia anyway really started becoming a much bigger thing, not just because of me and what I was doing, but like it was at the time as well, like Facebook and Instagram and all that, like video was becoming a thing. So I was part of that movement where everything started happening for us, for sports videographers, and it was very cool to be a part of it in that part of the world anyway.
Actually, it's funny that you're talking about the DVD quality and all that, and it brought me back. So before I barged into your office, I don't know if you remember when I became your office co-lock or whatever you want to call it.
Roommate.
Roommate, Habs TV. We started Habs TV, and it was new, right? The NHL wanted videos on all the websites and that. So I remember my first project was training camp. So I'm filming with a mini no HDV camera. I was editing in the studio, which sounded like a wind tunnel because I was next to all the servers and all that. And my first day was a big learning curve because I was to go downstairs. We had at the time there was no CN complex where the players practice and that. Now everything was done in the Bell Center, so we did all this off ice testing and on ice testing there. And I basically ran around all day and filmed as much as I could, and didn't really have a game plan. I just knew there were stations. So my whole idea was to get the main focus guys, the guys who I know are going to make the team at those stations. And that year there was like Carey Price trying out. He didn't make the team. So I didn't even really bother with him, but I got like Sako Koivu and all those guys. And I tried to do the best I could. And then that night I had to edit the piece. And I remember back then we used to transfer the tape, digitize it, and then edit. And I was there till like 2, 3 in the morning. And I realized right then and there, like how much work there is in sports videography, especially with tight deadlines, because people don't want to see training camp 3 weeks after. They want to see it the next day or that day. And that was a big learning curve too, is the speed of pro sports. And you film something that day, well, you got to get it out by tomorrow minimum. If you can get it out that day, even better. So that there's a lot to learn, and they're all things that happen to you while you're going. But you adjust along the way, and you become faster, quicker, and you pick up on a lot of tricks, and that's kind of what we're going to talk about in this episode also. But it's funny, like as soon as you said DVD, I'm like, oh my god, I remember we used to burn everything, all our highlights
Yeah.
on DVD, and they look like crap.
Oh yeah. Well, I'm looking at the like I kept some of the work that I was doing back in the day with the Canadians, and I'm looking at the quality of the video. It's just like yeah, it was exported in like 640 by 10 by 480, I think, and yeah, just like the resolution and everything is just. And back then that was as good as it gets, I guess.
So what can you expect to be filming on game day?
Well, today, the expectation is everything. That's it.
That's
So
true.
the you wanna you expected to capture the game, but also everything around it. So the fans, the atmosphere, the if there's something special going on pregame or at halftime. Usually, like I'd say that the most stressful moment um, is for me anyway, is like the last 10 minutes before the game starts. Because you've been filming, like you're asked to film crowd, for example, like, oh, pregame want to see like the crowd coming in when the door open and want to see the crowd sort of, getting excited and stuff. But in reality, the crowd looks empty up until 10 minutes before the game. And sometimes it still looks empty, depending on where you're filming, which city stuff. So it's like it's finally when there's enough people in the place to make it look cool. But then you've got all these other things happening that you need to capture as well, like players like walking onto the court or the field, or there's all these things that are happening. They might be fireworks or something going on that's a bit of a show, cheerleaders or dancers, something that's happening. So you're trying to capture everything. It's all happening at once, and it's like bing, bang, 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 and then the game starts. Once the game starts, it's a bit easier in a way because you're focusing mostly on the game and on the crowd a little bit as well. But like once you got enough good shots of the game, then you can sort of ease up and maybe spend a few 5 or to 15 minutes focusing more on the crowd, and then you'll go back to the game. Like, but there's like a crunch of time just before the game starts where like everything has to be captured at the same time, and that's usually the most stressful moment.
Yeah, because you're on a clock, right? Tip off is at 7:08 or puck drops at 7:12. You know that. So yeah, you're trying to capture the best ambience before that. And it's tough and it's stressful because you're running, you're sweating, you don't want to miss anything, and you probably are missing something. So if you do have a chance to work with a team a couple times, that or you say you got hired for the season, well then you have time to really craft those shots. Like I know, okay, I'm just gonna stand in front of the door today, and at 7 o'clock I'm gonna get everyone coming in last minute before the tip off. I'm not even worried about tip off. But these are things that you adapt to. Um, like like you said, fan arrivals, their reactions. Um, you want to get close ups. You want to get the emotion and the excitement. I always try and capture kids who maybe it might be their first time coming, and that shock and awe of them seeing their favorite player or the court for the first time, or the ice, like that. That's what you're kind of looking for, those unique shots, because there's so many generic shots you can get every game. Like people clapping, people jumping out of their seats. That you can get all the time. You just have to have a camera facing the audience, the crowd, sorry, and waiting for those shots. The hard part is deciding when you're going to go for those shots. And it's something as videographers, when you're a solo videographer, you don't always have a chance to do, or if you're at a game one time. So now, you're hired by this team, take the time and plan out those shots, crowd walk in, crowd cheering, get those shots and bank them because they will come in handy later on.
Yeah, and there's also like there's smart ways to, for example, when you're talking about crowd reactions, sometimes it's hard to get them while the action is happening because you're more focused on that. So what I'd like to do is when we're probably talking more about the professional level, but like when there's a crowd, how do you call it? Like activations or something like that. Like when there's like whether it's a kiss cam or something
Your
like that when
favorite,
they're
eh? Your
throwing
favorite
like,
kiss cam. I know.
oh yeah, I've never been on a kiss cam,
It's because you're
but
always seeing the guys, dude.
yeah, that's true. Oh, it's 2025. Doesn't matter.
True, it's true.
But
Okay, I'm gonna text me next time you're at a game. Text me, and I'm
yeah,
gonna put
next
you
time
on.
I'm at a game, yeah. He'll dare me.
There you go.
But yeah, so every time there's something like that, whether it's like throwing t-shirts in the crowd or something like that, usually the crowd gets really into it. So they're up, they're having fun, like especially if it's like a dance cam, like they're dancing, or sometimes it's like a flex cam. So I use those moments to film the people who do stand up and get excited and dance and flex and do all these things, or get like all trying to get the mascot, whoever's throwing t-shirts out there, trying to get their attention. I filmed those moments because they look visually very similar to someone that's just having a great time at a sporting event. So obviously it's not going to look like the team just scored a touchdown, for example. But if you're you're in your edit, you're showing a bit of action and stuff. Maybe you're showing a cheerleader spinning in the air, and then the next shot you're showing a fan dancing. It all makes sense. So it gives you that excitement, that fun from a crowd's perspective, and you can actually capture it while nothing is going on the field or on the court. So when there are like moments like that in the game where fans are just having fun and dancing and flexing, and also it doesn't hurt that most of the time if I point my camera at them, doesn't matter if it's an FX3, whatever model it is, they still believe that they're going on screen. So they'll look straight at the camera and they'll start flexing, they'll start pointing, doing moves and stuff. So yeah, it's perfect for the video. But then they always do that side look. They're trying to see if they're on screen.
But those shots make you feel like you're there. They're important when you
Yeah,
see those
exactly.
shots and videos and that. It makes you feel like you're at that game and at that moment.
Yeah, and that's the whole. Yeah, that's the goal.
Exactly. If someone misses the game, okay, what 3 shots would you put in to make them feel like they were there? That's a tough one.
Yeah, it's a tough one. First of all, I try to film the action. Like I always say, like variety is the key. Like in terms of like filming the action, you want to get as many sort of point of views as possible. But to feel like you're there, you want close-ups and you want shots like from film from a low angle. You kind of feel more like you're in the action than if it's all compared to like if it's all filmed from like a downward angle from the stands or something like that. So if you can have like shots that can make you feel like you're almost part of the action, like, and let alone like as not even like as I'm not talking about as a fan, but just part of the actual game. That's kind of the way to do it. But in terms of like just the atmosphere of the place, then yeah, you want fans getting excited, actually looking down the barrel and sort of feeling like they're screaming at you, or they're talking to you, or they're blowing a kiss at you. Or like it feels like you're into it, and yeah, just like atmosphere in general as well. Like just without even being specific shots of people, like it's just the color, like the flags, the lights, the smoke, all that sort of thing, and then you mix it all together. And yeah, I think you want emotional shots in there as well, whether it's from the players or from the fan. You want something that displays of like, oh man, it looked like it was an awesome time. And because ultimately when you're working for a team and you're doing like recap videos, the whole purpose is not to let the fans know like what was the score at the end. Did we win or did we lose? Like they can go on Google for that. Like the idea is to make people who don't buy tickets kind of feel like they're missing out. Like that's this single reason why you do these videos is to get people excited about the idea of going to a game and feel like there's a difference between watching it at home on TV and going to the event. So that's the purpose. So that's what you should be thinking about when you're capturing your shots and when you're editing your videos, is that you want ultimately that the person watching this video feels like, you know what, let's go to a game. Like, it's been a while. It looks like it's really good fun.
Yeah, when they see your video, it's like, wow, we missed out. We missed out on a great time and a great game, or that's a great player. I want to see him in person. And that's, yeah, you hit the nail on the head. That is the concept of most videos. That's why these teams are pushing so much social content. At the end of the day, they want to sell tickets.
Because that's when they started doing it. They started doing it when all the games became available on television, and it's, it's HD and all now 4K. So it's like, why would I pay all this extra money to go sit in top, let's say, top level, all that sort of thing, when I can just watch it at home on my big screen TV? Well, here's why. It's all this extra stuff. That's why there's so much entertainment at games and all these things. They're trying to give you an experience, especially that, like, for a lot of markets, it's not about winning either. Like, you got a losing team. And so how do we convince people to come? Like, we give them a great experience. And how do we let people know that it's a great experience? By producing videos. So yeah, your part. If you're hired as a sports videographer to do a game recap, then that's what your job is about.
Yeah, because when you watch a game on TV, you know exactly what you're expecting, and when you go on the team's websites and you see the videos that they've produced, it feels completely different. And even for us who get the chance to film these games, like when I come home from an exciting hockey game, I can't go to bed right away. I'm like, even though I had nothing to do with the outcome of the game, even though I probably had the best shots of the night and stuff like that, still, I didn't really contribute, okay? But I can't sleep because I'm hyped up from the noise, the crowd, the energy in that building. So you're trying to bring that into your
And
videos,
and the
right?
coffees and the cookies.
Oh yeah, and the coffees and the cookies don't help either. But I have those pre-game. That's before the game, okay? So it's a good 4 hours after the coffee and the cookies.
I've seen you
Um,
put a few cookies in your pockets.
don't tell them. Don't tell them. All right. So we're trying to build this emotion that you get from the game, right? So for a newbie, what would that shot list look like? Let's build a shot list for them of what we expect them to film or what they could film.
Well, first of all, when you arrive, well, probably you should have a first of all, before you arrive, you should have a conversation about whoever hired you, about what they're expecting out of the video. So what type of shots? Because there might be other stuff that we rarely talk, on this show or on any other similar show, where you, like, a lot of times, like, if you get hired for a one-off, there's a reason. It could be just because it's a big game, big rivalry. They know, like, it's going to be a sellout crowd or close to it. But it could also be because there's a sponsor that's having, like, a specific activation. If maybe it's around, like, outside the stadium before the game starts, or it's because that's also one of the reasons why I was saying, like, the last 10 minutes before it starts, usually it's mayhem, because you have to film something for a sponsor somewhere, but then you have to run and make sure you make it in time to film the start of the game. And that's when all the fans are everywhere, so it's hard to get by. But anyway, my point is that, yeah, they might be something like that, where you have to film, like, a VIP experience somewhere, or you have to film, like, an hour before the game, like someone's having, like, a quick meet and greet with, like, an ambassador or a player or something like that. So, like, there's those things, but there's also, yeah, the colors. So, like, pregame, like, outside and then inside. So you definitely want to make the most of it, like I was saying about getting crowd shots that you could potentially use in your edit, uh as being, like, during the game crowd shots. So if there is something that's going on that's giving you the opportunity to do that, then definitely make the most of it, because the most crowd shots you can get out of the way while nothing is happening in the game, the easier, like, your life is going to be when filming the game. So there's a lot of that can be captured. And, like, for a sport like basketball, for example, I like to capture during the warm up, a few baskets going, like a few balls going in the basket, like a close up, because that has saved me sometimes from like a great shot that I got, but the ball didn't go in, and I fake it that way, though it's a win-win sort of thing. But you do need to get those shots like during the warm-up. Well, you can get some during the game where it was the opposite, like you didn't really get a good look at the actual play, but you did get the ball going in, so you can mix it up. But you can, if you get it in warm-up, it's even better. It's out of the way, it's done. And then during the game, then yeah, it's all about a mixture of the game, the color, and as many sort of little moments that might be helpful as far as storytelling is concerned. So if you're close enough to get sound bites that are you know TV friendly, that's awesome. If not, then just sometimes it's just like little moments. So whether it's like a player that gets injured, like you don't necessarily need to film them on the ground like in agony, but just you capture the play, and then you capture the the them like carrying him off or something like that, and you just get that, yeah, it was a bad injury. Just like capturing these little moments that are not necessarily just scoring, but can be very interesting. Capture that in a way that helps you tell the story of that game, basically.
You want to film it not like broadcast. You want to get those unique angles. You're not so worried about the safe shot all the time, depending on your assignment. I mean, I've had games where I have a broadcast camera where in preseason and they give me a list of new players, and I'm just following those new players for isolation shots in case there's something we can use for opening video or profile video, stuff like that. So there is a lot to cover, but having a shot list will definitely help you. So off the top of my head, for pro sports, okay, I'm getting there early. I want arrivals, I want walk-ins. Then, you want your crowd showing up. Maybe you want a building shot or definitely a location shot to show where you are. Then from there, you go into warm ups, maybe rituals. Some guys, they double tap their hands or do their special handshake or whatever team that is. Look for those kind of things. Then obviously, you want some, you got the game, right? So you want your key game moments, but I wouldn't focus on capturing everything because you're going to miss stuff. And if you're working for a pro sports team and you miss stuff, guess what? There's another angle of it. So if you really, really need it for your video, there's another way to find it. Don't worry. Don't put too much pressure on yourself because we all seem to feel like we need to capture everything, and you can't. You can't capture everything. What else do you want? You want reactions from the bench, sidelines. Try and get change up. You want to feel like your camera is not just one camera; it's multiple cameras. So you move around if you can, if you have that option. And then post game, you want to capture that emotion. So if you have access to locker room or when guys are getting off the court, that's where you get handshakes, you get hugs, you get like fist pumps. That's really key shots that will make your piece stand out. And it will also help you for your content bank. So yes, you know, you won this game, but a month from now, they might say, hey, we want a month recap video, or we want to do a new player feature or something. Label those clips, make sure you keep those clips because those clips are what broadcast doesn't have. That's why they hired you for those intimate moments. Those go a lot further than the generic stuff that everybody sees.
Yeah, no, I agree. I think also, like, for me, the way I approach it during the game is like I'm 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 trying to prioritize what, like, the best shot that I can get from where I am right now. So if my I'm in a position where my action, like, for example, let's say I have to film from the stands for whatever reason, and my shot of the action is not that great. I'm obviously going to shoot some of it just so that I can use it sporadically in my video, and hopefully like get a few buckets, a few goals, whatever the case may be. But I probably have a much better angle at fans and get like real emotional shots from those fans. And so that's what I'm trying to focus on more, probably in that position. I'll try to capture something like, or to basically, so at least I have those shots that are excellent. And then the rest of my shots might be average to good, somewhere in that range. But like the shots that I can get in that position in that time that are excellent, if they're not game related, if they are fan related, bench related, ref related, whatever it is, like let's make the most of that situation. Make sure I get amazing shots of those things that I have available to me right now, and then I'll get everything else later, or I'll get it, in whatever. But I'll try to prioritize always the best shot that I can get at that time, whatever that is. So like sometimes it's just like, or it's as stupid as I'm on the baseline kind of in a way where I have an amazing shot of a basketball player shooting a three from the corner. But if I do try to follow the ball, first of all, it's going to be really hard because he's shooting from so close that like the arc is kind of a weird shot to get on camera. I'm basically shooting at the ceiling, and then I'm going to get the behind the backboard shot. So instead of getting a shot of him shooting and then just the rest of it, as soon as he releases the ball, is just garbage, basically, I'll just stick on him. And he releases, I stick on him, I get that great reaction. If he does score, I get the celebration, and I don't even need to see the basket. I know he scored because of the face or the gesture that he made. So yeah, just focus on the great shot, and don't worry about getting everything, is what I'm getting at.
You ever have a moment that you didn't plan to shoot, but you did, and it became an important moment?
All the time, but it's not necessarily something special or something that I can point out. It's just there's so many shots that you get and you think I'm never going to use this, and then you end up using it in the video, and they're like, oh yeah, like yeah, this is, people watch it and say, yeah, this is pretty cool, and it's just like a random. Sometimes it's just like a filler into, like, from one play to the next, you'll just have like some sort of garbage, just like quick passes or things like that that never led anywhere during the game, but quickly edited, like quick cuts and stuff, it all makes sense. And it's so, a lot of the times, like, people would see the raw footage and think like, it's all for the most part garbage, and then they see the edited piece and they're like, wow, there's so many shots in there that I never thought would be good enough for a video, but like watching it now, it all makes sense. Whether it's like in soccer, like just a quick sort of feet, like just sort of little moves, quick, and just skating is the same thing in hockey. Like the play doesn't go anywhere, you assume that you're not going to use that clip, but when you just focus on little moments of greatness, whether it's a nice pass, just a juke, anything that just by itself for half a second looks good, then just you put all these half a second plays next, back to back to back, and it all looks great. So yeah, there's nothing specific that I'll go out that I'll look for, but like when I go through my footage, if there's something that just looks good for, just like I said, half a second, I'll just take that and keep it, and that way when you add all those up, it all looks pretty good.
So I have one specific shot that I filmed that at the time I didn't think it was going to be anything. We're playing the Western Conference Finals, the Canadians against Vegas. So they're in my zone. Carey Price we're in overtime. Carey Price makes a massive save. The puck rushes out to the other zone, and he stands up. Now he's in my shot because he is blocking my shot, where I'm trying to follow through. But he usually is always crunched over, but he stands up this time because it ends up with a 2-3, and we score the winning goal to win it and go to Stanley Cup Finals. Now I have this beautiful shot of him like this, putting his hand on his head like he can't believe we're there. I did not mean to film that. He just stood up in my shot and I caught it. And it was like one of those moments that I'm like, I'm glad that I just stayed on him, because normally I would try to move over and all that, but he was blocking me, and I caught that shot. So it makes you realize, like, just keep recording. Don't worry. If you don't use it, you don't use it. Maybe nothing will come out of it. But if you're set up properly for a good shot and you have the right angle, let it record and let it play out, because you might capture something great. You don't know that at the time. Like if they don't score, that's just a wasted shot anyway. It's just him blocking my camera. I can't see anything. But since they scored and I capture him with his hands on his head and that moment of emotion, it turned into a great shot because of what happened around him.
Oh, I was just gonna say, it goes back to what I was saying earlier, where like if you would have tried to capture the action, because that would was your job is at the that's what your job was at the time. Like you would, yeah, you probably got like a crappy shot where he's blocking half of it and it wouldn't really look that good and you probably never would have used it. But because he was in front of you, then he becomes the one thing that you can actually film properly. And you did, and it ended up being a great shot.
Yeah, which is a perfect segue to our next topic: camera
Goalies.
placement.
That's
Camera placement. There you go. See that? See how we tied that all in? I got lucky there. Okay, like you're not always gonna get a shot like that, but you can plan shots. There's certain shots throughout a season that you want to plan. You want to make them cinematic. You know, E, you were saying that this year you've been improving on being more cinematic, and it's something that most content creators should. You do need some nice visual shots to show why you're a good videographer and something that breaks up the action, because you don't want to just watch videos that are score, score, score. You want to see maybe a nice reveal or a tunnel shot with a silhouette. So what are kind of ways to get these creative angles?
It's just to think, for 5-10 seconds before you actually press record, and just look at your monitor and your screen, and just like, is that the best way of shooting what's in front of me right now? Like, should I go a little bit lower? Should I move a little bit so that it's more um you know symmetrical? Or like, is there something that I can improve by just moving a little bit to the left, to the right, or just getting a bit lower? It's things like that. Honestly, it's that simple. And it's funny because I actually had that conversation with someone last night who was taking a photo with their phone. It's like, oh, your photos like always look so much better than anyone else's. Like when I went on my trip to Miami with my friends, and we're sharing photos afterwards, and like everybody's like, oh, your photos look so much better than ours. And it's not a phone. It's not the phone. Like, it's just the way. Well, first of all, I do take
It's
the
you. It's
time
all
to
you. E. It's you.
no,
It's your
but like,
talent.
how come? And it's like, it's not like I do take the time to edit a little bit, like an iPhone. You can edit like but I to be honest, I just press auto and it just adjusts the exposure and things by itself. And then I might
Shh.
add a filter or something. But for the most part, it's composition. It's just I make it symmetrical. I try to get low. I try to make it from an angle. Maybe there's something in the foreground and something in the background to add a bit of depth, like things like that. It's just that, because 98% of the photos that you see online is just someone picking up the camera, putting it at eye level, and just snapping. And same with video. Like, for the most part, people are holding their camera probably at this height and they're filming and they're going straight on, and they don't really think about, oh, there's this little thing on the left that just doesn't look good. Like, let's try to just move it a little bit to the right and get rid of it so that it's fully the action, and there's not that little post or whatever it is that's distracting or just not making that shot as pretty as it could be. So it's just about like taking, once you get to that camera position, just take the time to think about what a great shot from this position can look like.
For sure. And this, I think, is where gear comes in too. There's gear that you can use to help you get these creative angles. You know, we've talked about gimbals. There's long lenses. My favorite, action cams. You know, you can put an action cam on a bench or somewhere. When you're hired, you have more access to these different spots. So be creative and try and figure out, okay, what can I put here? Maybe I can put an action cam on the bench. You know, I might let it roll all game, but I might get a 5 second shot that really looks cool in my video when the team scores or when they hit that game winning three. That's when you want those angles. So try and figure out a way. Or something you've done that I really like, one of your shots I spoke about before, is at a basketball game, you came with a gimbal and you went behind the crowd where you were following the ball handler coming up. So you had that depth of crowd and then the floor, so get those unique shots, because now is your chance. You're hired, you have the time, and use new tools, try new stuff. And this is where a gimbal comes in
Yeah,
handy.
no, that's true. So what would you recommend for someone who's like, if we go back to the basic of our topic today, like someone who's been hired for the first time for the first game day, like, what do you think is the bare minimum instead of in terms of equipment?
The bare minimum.
The bare minimum, or maybe also like the ideal. You can have two sort of what would be the minimum that is required as someone who's getting paid to film a game, and then maybe what you would like to have.
You want like a camera model, or you want like just say like a 4K minimum 60 frame per second camera? I would say you would need.
Yeah.
Um,
Without being specific, like what type of lens would you need? What type of camera would you need? And what other accessories would be?
a minimum kit at a pro level would be a 4K 60 camera. 2-3 batteries minimum, because you're gonna burn through. So like if it's a hockey game, you have 3 a period, or 4 for a quarter, for a basketball game. And I would say lens wise, I would go with like a 28 to 75 minimum, because you definitely want a variable lens that you can zoom in, zoom out. Obviously, depending on where you are situated, you might need a longer focal length, but I feel like that pretty much covers you for walking around, getting close-ups, getting wides, making people feel like you're there. I also think you need a mic. You need a mic to capture some cleaner audio. A shotgun mic is perfect, but I really feel like that is the minimum you get it with. I know if I just go to any game with my camera that I'm filming right now, how it is, I put a mic on it, I'm gonna get some great
It's good.
footage.
Yeah, no, I agree.
The thing is, know your camera. Like, you don't have to shoot an S log. You don't have to shoot in S cinetone. You can have no picture profile. It doesn't matter. The lighting is consistent at 99.9% of all pro fields or arenas and all that. If you nail your white balance, you'll be fine. You will be fine. It's tough. So like on that day, you will be challenged, because if you're in a locker room, if you're in a tunnel, if you're like doing players walking in or crowd, the white balance changes. So that time, those moments when you change, you will have to adjust your white balance. You will have to be prepared. But if you are filming action, guess what? That white balance is going to be the exact same thing the next game you come back. So once you know it, you're set. You don't have to worry about your game footage. It's always going to be the same white balance.
I'd say like equipment wise, like I agree with you, like everything you said. But like I'd say if you are filming with a longer lens, let's say you're filming a football or a rugby or lacrosse or whatever, and you're going in with something that goes all the way to like 200 or 300 millimeter. If you don't have any, even if you do, like, but especially if you don't have any stabilization in your camera or in your lens, because you're still on a somewhat budget um, type of equipment, I think you should definitely consider bringing a tripod as well, and a fluid head like on top of that tripod. Like I'm not talking a little photography $35 tripod, because otherwise, yeah, your footage is going to be so shaky at those zooming uh, distances, that as those focal length, that yeah, you definitely need something to stabilize. If you can't if you can't afford like a proper fluid head tripod, then maybe just like a monopod, something that you can just like sit on, and you won't pan or you move too much while you're filming. You'll do like more static shots and let the action, which is mostly what I do anyway when I'm especially outside. Let the action move, and for the most part keep the camera still. So yeah, so at least get a monopod or something. But other than that, yeah, I pretty much agree with everything you said.
And you know what? I want to go back. So I've been very lucky working for sports teams, filming for broadcast. But when I started my own company and veered off and had to go and buy my own camera for once, because I never really had to have my own camera. I always had access to cameras. I was filming on a 4K 60 camera with a kit lens at first, a kit lens, and my footage was good. You couldn't tell it was a kit lens because I was maximizing that. So if you really know your equipment and you really know how to maximize your camera, you will be fine. So don't worry, you don't need a 1.8 or a 2.8. Yes, it helps. Yes, it does make it look a little bit better. But if you have good angles, good context, you will be fine with a kit lens. So don't worry about geeking out and getting the best gear right away. You're just starting. Come out with a good product. You will be fine.
All right, so let's talk about editing now. So once you get all that, let's assume that you've been hired to film a game, and then you're the one putting it all together. what's your game plan? What do you like, go through all the footage and do like what I call like a footage dump, where I'll put all the clips that I like together in a thing, or do you already like start editing? Did you pick your music before, or do you pick it now that everything's done? Like, what's your usual methodology?
So if I know I have a tight deadline and I know that we need something right after the game or by the next day, I'm going to have my music ready. I'm going to have that song already in my head, already pre-approved. It's something that I used to not do in the past, where I used to go and then look at it after, and then I realized I spend so much time looking for good music. So now I've already pre-done that. I have my music ready. It's going to save you a lot of time, and it definitely helps tell your story. I kind of already have an idea of how I want to tell the story, where the emotion is, where the impact pieces are going to go, and it makes it easier to set up. But now comes the hard part. How do I tell that story? Am I going chronological order? Is it just like a day recap where it's like, hey, the game starts, players enter, or am I showing like a big play, rewinding it? Am I trying to be creative with that edit? These are all things that you will struggle with, and sometimes I'll put together an edit and I just don't like it, and I'll start back over. It's really tricky on how you want to tell that story, but I am saving time right away by having my music ready. What about you?
Yeah, well, I think every video is different, right? So it's not like, let's say, oh yeah, everything, because like you said, like the story can be told many different ways, and it could be more about creativity, and or it could be more about storytelling, and I think that's something that you'll figure out most likely while or after you're done filming. So it's just to have these tools, basically, to know what your options are. Like, am I going for something like, obviously, if you can know in advance, like, oh yeah, I'm going to be doing something a bit more emotional, make sure I have like some great slow motion shots and things like that, then that's definitely something you want to think about beforehand. But otherwise, yeah, it's just knowing that sometimes it's more emotional, sometimes it's more creative, sometimes it's a specific storyline that's building up, like just knowing what your options are. And as the game unfolds, and like what type of footage you got, maybe you get an idea of what direction you'll be going with that video, and then you start filming maybe more with that in mind. And when you get to the edit, then yeah, you got that sense of direction already, and you can start your edit that way. But I don't think you'll be doing it the exact same way every single time. But there are things that you do every time, like you said, picking your music early. If you already have like a gist of what the video is going to be like, then definitely do it. Especially like you said, if you have like a quick turnaround. And like I was saying earlier, like a footage dump is always good, because especially if you filmed, like if you're on a, I need to turn this video around pretty quickly, you might not have time to do what I was saying earlier, where you'll go through every single clip and you'll find like a little half a second of greatness here and there. Like, you might not have time to do that for that type of video. So what you'll do is, while you're filming, every time you capture something interesting, the next shot, you'll just like block the lens or something, just so have like a 1 second of black recorded. And that way, when you get into the edit, you know that all the shots that are followed by a black frame are good shots, and you'll quickly grab those, put them in your footage dump, or you can start your edit already and just go from those clips. But yeah, it's just trying to make it as easy as possible, as quick as possible, for you to figure out where everything is, and move on with the creativity side of things.
Yeah, because marking those clips helps, right? Like the second I'm uploading my clips and I see those marked clips that I've blocked the lens, I'm throwing those on my timeline right away because I know I'm using those. I've already pre-edited those in my head. So as you're filming, your days going on, so pre-edit in your head, save yourself time. And the better you get and the more you film, the less random stuff you'll film too. You'll start filming with purpose. You're not just going to be filming every guy in warm up just because I don't know what else to film. It's warm up. I should be filming. No, film the top guys. You know, you're going to use, I don't know, 3, 4 shots of warm up. We'll film the top guys or film what you need and get out of there. And it's something that you only realize as you go, because we get caught all the time over filming, and over filming leads to longer edits. I mean, yes, when you're new, You're gonna film a lot of stuff. You're gonna film a lot of warm. You're gonna film a lot of walk-ins and stuff that you're not really gonna use. You can bank it, but you will get to that rhythm of, okay, I need this, I don't need that. And this will be the same thing with your edit. You're gonna understand what makes your edit work and what doesn't, and it's gonna save you time of going through all those clips.
You know, we've talked about mostly what is all fun and games, but let's talk about the dark side of game day filming, which is making mistakes, because we all do. At some point, we either miss a great moment, or we overexpose something, or it's out of focus when someone scores and things like that. So how do you have an example of something like that happening to you, first of all, and how do you deal with it?
It happens to me all the time. Now,
I
for
know.
broadcast, for broadcast, I can't. That's my job to capture the goal. I'm in an ideal situation, so I'm not missing any goals for broadcast. But when I film other stuff, yeah. Just this year, I said it on this podcast. My son made a crazy save at the goal line and then passed it, and it led to a breakaway and ended up winning the game. And I missed his save because I was too busy reacting to what happened around me. And he was pissed. Now, I did have a backup angle of it. Oh no, I didn't even have my GoPro because it was broken. So I have the other angle, the far angle. I don't even have the backup angle of it. And I missed that shot. And it happens. It happens all the time. You can't sweat missing the shots, because I guarantee you are going to capture more shots than you missed. You are going to get better shots than you missed. So don't worry about it. It's all part of the game. And even whenever we've had guests on, other pro videographers, they always talk about missing the shots. It's part of the job. It's part of it. We can't always press record, or sometimes you think you press record and it's just not recording. There's always hiccups. So just double check. Sometimes you get caught in the moment. Just take a quick look, make sure that red light's on, and you'll be good. Um, I'm big on white balance, so double check your white balance, double check your audio. Just get in the habit of double checking things, and you will make less mistakes. I guarantee you will still make mistakes. Another instance, I did some interviews the other day. I had to change scenes. It's rushed. The guy already has the mic on. I switched scenes and I'm like, oh, his audio sounds like crap. I'm like, why? Oh, because I have the audio jack plugged not into the out from the DJI mics. I have it plugged into the headphone jack, like something silly like that, But I started recording and I'm like, wait, something's off, and I couldn't figure out what. And then I saw that. So, but because I'm so used to double checking, triple checking, I caught the mistake before we went on with the interview, and I had to redo the first question. Things like that are going to be happen. Don't worry. Take the time. If you make a mistake, you made the mistake. It's going to make it a lot easier than pretending like, hey, I didn't make it. I've had other mistakes where equipment, sometimes it breaks. Equipment does break. When you work for a pro sports team, you will end up breaking something eventually. If you break it, the person who hired you, a person whose equipment belongs to, just tell them this piece of equipment broke. It's not going to be the end of the world. Where if I put it away, the camera, and there's something broken on it, and I wait till next time someone else uses it and they find it's broken, it's going to be a lot worse. So listen, it's all part of the game. Mistakes happen on the court. Mistakes happen off the court too. Don't worry about it.
Yeah.
It's hard to
Yeah,
say
no.
that because it feels like it's the most, like when you mess up, it's the worst feeling in the world, but it does happen. It happens all the time.
The main part is to sort of react to what's going on. So, like, for example, if you keep getting your shots keep getting out of focus because there's too much going on and the camera can't decide who to focus on, maybe try like going to manual and just, or going with a higher aperture, like something that's going to help you stop getting that problem. Just don't running into the same problem the exact same way every single time, just crossing your fingers that this time it's going to be different. You know what I mean? Like, do something about it. Like, it's okay to miss a few shots. Like, there's nothing wrong with that. But like, if you can figure out a way to make sure that it doesn't happen again, let's do that. Let's not just keep doing the same mistake over and over. So just react to certain things. Like, if you, like you were talking about white balance, if it looks a bit weird on your monitor, on your screen, then maybe think, oh, maybe my colors are off. Like, and let's adjust them. Let's not just go with the flow and wait until you get home and realize that the entire game your colors were off. Like, so just be on the lookout and be aware. And if you feel like something's off, like you're saying with your microphone story, like, you feel like something's off, then call it and do something about it, so that the rest of what happens after that will be okay. So, and like you said, if you do make a mistake, like own it. Like I've seen people trying to shy. Oh, I don't know what happened. I think it's the SD card. Like some like no, just own your mistakes. Sorry, I forgot to press record. Can we just do this thing again? Because like you might get a sigh on the at the moment from the other person, but you'll get you'll get it done ultimately, and they'll be happy, and they'll move on, and they'll forget that it took two takes to get the thing. Where if you don't say anything and then you blame the SD card, everybody's going to blame you, and everybody's going to be angry because ultimately no one got the shot that they wanted. So own up to your mistakes, and then do something about it to get the next shot the right way.
When you're starting, the mistakes you make will only make you better, because you won't make those mistakes again, or you'll learn from those mistakes. And it's all part of growing. It's all part of being a videographer. It's all part of this industry. Nobody is perfect. Everybody makes mistakes. It's just the way that you handle those mistakes.
Be a good person.
That's it. That's why this podcast is all about being a good person. Actually, while we wrap it up, there's something I want to say about being a good person. Last episode, I talked about the kid that I went and filmed for hockey who had leukemia in that. Well, I got a message on Instagram from this other account. They're helping out this kid. Basically, they're going to hook him up with the gear and all that, and really, really help him out. So it shows you the power of social media. And it's kind of crazy that this one piece that we did shines some light, and the sponsor is going to help out this kid and give him all new equipment and all that. They don't want everyone to they don't want recognition for it and all that. They just want to do it on the side. But I thought it was very, very cool. And they reached out to me and said, told me what they were doing. And I was shocked. I was like, wow, this is great. So,
That's awesome.
There is a lot of good stuff on the internet. We always think negative, but there's a lot of good stuff that comes out of it. And even this, like, we're doing this to try and help people, whether you're filming in a high school game or a pro game, we want, you want people to feel like they're there, and you want to show them the best experience that you can.
Amen. No, that's awesome.
So I guess that's it for this episode of Game Day Glare, unless there's something else you want to add, E?
Well, just that you're a great person. Obviously, you're.
Thank you. I just made the video. It wasn't my idea. Hockey Canada came up with the idea. They found the kid. I just drove, filmed it, and told the story the best I could. I'm just happy that this kid is getting something out of it, and it's well deserved. So, kudos to the donors and the people who got in contact with him.
Yeah. Yep. No, that's awesome.
All right, man. So, well, that's it for this episode of Game Day Glare. We'll see you next week.
See ya.
Bye.